Starting in 3, 2, 1, and welcome to this week's That Karate podcast with the usual, God help me, with our special guests, Jamie Gray Sensei, but joining us always is Sean McLaren.
How you doing, everybody?
And Mark Slattery.
Hey.
He stood up in true Luton style there. I thought I was getting mugged. Just bringing in Jamie Sensei. Jamie comes at karate from a slightly different. I don't mind me calling you Jamie through this. Is this okay?
No, not at all. No.
I won't call you anything else, but just Jamie, I promise. Jamie comes at karate from a slightly different angle from us three idiots. But he came through the kind of more standard route, as it were, and has kind of developed on and has made quite a name for himself as a person understands bunkai application, karate for self-defense, etc. So, Jamie Gray Sensei, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
I apologise in advance for any stupidity that comes out of the three of us.
The four of us.
Well, you did watch them all, so you've been warned. If you come on and you haven't seen them, then it's our fault. But if you come on and you have seen them, then it's your fault. That's kind of how it is. So, if you don't mind, can you give us a wee kind of background, how you get started in karate specifically, and what got you on the journey?
Yeah, of course. Like probably a lot of kids when they were younger, started with judo. I got taken to a judo club back in the late 70s when I was quite young, and I don't remember an awful lot about it, but I remember it was a weekly thing, did for a few years. The judo club stopped, and it was replaced shortly after by a karate club in the same hall. So I went along to that. It was Shukokai karate in the town I stayed in, which was Maybole at the time, and there was a heavy influence on from the son. It was a father and son that took it. The father was old traditional, came through the Nambu lineage of Shukokai, and right into his kata and the traditional side. His son was more into the sports side, and he was part of the Pat Mackay group at the time, the son. So we had a heavy influence in the sporting side of it and the competitions and everything. And I used to go and train with Pat and Bunny and his guys back in the early 80s as much as we could up in Kilmarnock, which is just up the road. It was actually in their old Shortleys club, the Mastada. But the main club was in Maybole, and it had a satellite club in Cross Hill. During that time, I just got the bug for it. I always remember the first night, coming home, and I get cramp down the front of my legs, cramp on the back of my legs. I felt as though a bus had hit me, a few days after, and I thought, this is great, this is brilliant, and get hooked and just wanted to train as much as I could and tried lots of different clubs and stuff. And there was a guy came to visit us one night, a brown belt from another club, a club in Ayr, Jim Hepburn's Ronin Karate Club, and I'd been doing it for a few years, and pretty tall, thin, good kicker, pretty fast, and I could score a point on him really easy, and then next thing I know, I'd be on the ground and I wouldn't be able to move, and I would be in a position, if it was a real fight, that would have been a game over, and he was in total control. And I thought, oh, hang on, what's happened here? And I started going and training with his sensei, as well as my own club, and that's what introduced me to the more traditional side of the martial arts, the grappling, throwing. But it's still part of karate, just not the 3K, not the gearing for tournament side. And cut a long story short, I did that back and forward for quite a few years, and then there was a bit of a split within that club, and the assistant instructor went and set up on his own. I just went and training on his own with a few of the guys, and I went with him. And this was in the 90s, Louis McComb Sensei. And he's got a strong influence in the traditional arts. He traveled a lot, traveled to Malaysia when he was younger. He was in the army, picked up different skill sets. He'd made contact. He was training in Aido as well as Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, Kobudo, and he was a good friend of Stephen Chan and Kirby Watson. Kirby Watson from the Kazi Arashiru, and Stephen Chan from the at the time was the Sidokan, now Jindokai, and they would come visit the club. Well, they would visit the previous club. They still kept that connection there, and they taught us weapons stuff and more of the close range things. And all the way through the kind of 90s, that was a big part of what we did, and part of the syllabus and training and full contact karate. And then for Louis kind of retired and stopped doing the karate, and I went on to Wasopama and it was called at the time Korean combat kickboxing and ground fighting was the name of it. It was before the kind of the huge MMA revolution, and nobody really knowed what to call it. There was Vale Tudo stuff going on, so we kind of branded it that a little bit. But the instructors Scott Beattie and Andy Wilson at the time were from a kind of Kempo and kickboxing and ground fight, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or ground fighting background, and they kind of amalgamated all of that, and it was a big learning curve. Absolutely fantastic learning curve. And when I started doing that, I was still training karate, still doing my own thing, and a lot of the kata and stuff. And bits were falling into place, different moves and different stances and different grips and holds. And when you watch other people do it, you think, oh God, that's in that kata, that's in that kata, which you don't see when you're working at a distance, like in 1-step, 3-step stuff. When you're in like this, and you can start see foot positioning, balancing, where the hands are, the positions and stuff. And that kind of got me looking into kata and forms. And then it kind of clicked and realized that, that was, that's where a lot of the application stuff was coming out and starting to make sense. Yeah. And kind of shortly after that, we got until Ian Abernethy, started training with him, going to some of his seminars. Went through a kind of training program with him to become a full instructor under the Bunkai Jutsu system and applications, and it opened me up to Peter Considine, Jeff Thompson, the reality-based world, Trevor Roberts, Russell Jarmussy, a great friend, train with him on a regular basis. He broke my ribs with his chin. When I had him in the headlock, thinking I was winning, and then I just heard the pop. It got me in the ground, broke my ribs, stood back up. Didn't realise it at the time because adrenaline was kicking in. On the way home from Manchester, I thought I was having a heart attack. But all that kind of stuff. And every time when I got into that close range stuff, all I could see was kata. All I could feel was kata. It was opening up things, and that went on from there. And I'm trying to remember where did I go after that. I think that was around about then. We started our own club, started kind of pressure testing things and building out the syllabus, and we started Masashi, and still cross train with a lot of good people just now. I think it's important to keep putting yourself on the line and go and train with other people. People like Steve Lowe was a big influence on my karate, and just the whole the Taiwo Kanawa and the internal stuff and strength and power generation and applied karate. John Johnson, Simon, they're known as the Three Amigos, and I can't think of anything else to say. We've just been kind of doing it ever since.
That was. I've interviewed people that love karate because you can just ask a question, we'll make a cup of tea.
I can talk all day.
No, I'm a
very often people ask me about me.
No, I tell you, if I could, I don't want to go over the top of the boys, but I found really interesting what you said there. There's just so many people get into the kind of striking and the kickboxing, etc., and they tend to walk away from kata, whereas you seem to walk to it.
Kata's all in fighting. Throws, groundwork, chokes, strangles. Sorry, I missed what you said there.
I was just going to say strangled there, kind of worried me a bit, but yes, it worries me when you say things like that. But yeah, it's not cool these days to do kata. No, I think karate was ever cool, to be honest. Yeah. But most people kind of shy away from it and poo-poo it. But you found something in there that kind of connected.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about kata. The way I do kata and the way I teach kata to my students will look totally different to the way that likes of you guys will, or the 3K or the Japanese.
Yeah, you've
side
seen
will
shots.
do.
Yeah.
It's I would never win a tournament, never win a competition with the kata. It doesn't. It's not aesthetic. But we kind of do kata second. We do the application first, then we do the kata, and everybody should look slightly different doing the kata, because it will depend on your height and frame and who you're fighting with, and there's a simple things like ki points in kata. Very, very soon when I started the club, I did away with ki points because of my understanding of a fight and the sections of the kata where when you're involved, everything, you should have energy in everything, not just at 2 points within the kata or 1 point or whatever it is. It should be kiaku, which means full of spirit, full of energy. And bizarrely, that was the name of my first karate club, was Kiaku, and that's what I've named my dojo. And that kind of principle of everything should be have the same energy, not just at certain points in the kata, was a kind of point. And the aesthetics of it kind of goes out the window. We have a certain baseline that we need to make sure that people have got the right stances, the right understanding of the principles as opposed to the techniques. And it's kind of driven from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, for example, rather than just learning the kata and trying to do it as aesthetically pleasing or as fast, speed, balance, power, kime, and everything strong looking, it's probably a wee bit softer. I've got a 5-stage approach to how it should look, which is based on the individual person doing it and how their body works and how they breathe and how they move and how they generate power and how the muscle works and how the balance and the connection works for delivering it. But it's about the principle within the move. So one principle could have 20 different techniques, but what you're actually seeing, if you look on the outside, somebody looking in would just see one technique, but it's the principle contained within it. For example, a punch, the punch we assume that you hit with the 2 knuckles, but we could be hitting with the arm, we could be hitting with the shoulder, we could be grabbing the throat and then closing in on the throat and rotating it, but it's all still the same look. But the principle of putting your arm out is the same. Yeah. It's just there's 20 different things you can do by putting your arm out and where you can strike.
Nice.
There you go. I told you I could talk.
No, it's honestly, I could just sit and listen to you for a while. It's interesting.
You might have to.
It's stuff that we don't really touch into too often as well. So it is interesting to listen to it, and with someone like yourself with so much kind of knowledge and experience, and taking it from all these different, when you go to these all different clubs and instructors, you're always taking a little bit of knowledge and you're adding that to your own, and it's interesting to listen and obviously to see you approach to it as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I remember. I think it was the first bow seminar we did up at your bit, Liam, and I remember pulling you out, Sean, and I'd given a task to everyone in the thing to you. Just put one of the bows down, partner up, and the other person take the bow off the other person. Yeah. And it was great, and exactly what I thought happened. Everyone's hanging onto the bow and pulling away. A bow is a 6-inch. It's a 6-foot staff for anyone that doesn't know, a brush handle. And folk were kind of fighting over this and wrestling and stuff. And then using the same principle of taking the bow off somebody, but without any effort, I just grabbed Sean, put my thumb in his eye, and said, "Let go of the bow, or I'm taking your eye out." He dropped the bow. It was far less effort.
I love classes like that. I love watching Sean getting smacked. It just makes my
it doesn't matter where the instructor is from or what background or what type of karate they're teaching. I'm always the
you're always a test on me.
Yeah. It's a nice thing about getting older. You're not the uki anymore. It's not my job anymore. So,
but you want to be though, Liam, didn't you? You said earlier you want.
I would be back up, mate. These days, I would be back up. I would just lie there and cry.
Do you know, I'm one of these guys as well. It doesn't matter where I go. I travel around going to lots of different seminars and stuff. And because I'm generally the biggest person in the room, there's this kind of, most karate instructors, well, if they can make the biggest guy in the room cry, then everybody will think I'm great and follow. So I generally get battered up and down the hall, wherever I go, which is good. I prefer to learn that way and understand, they say feelings believing, don't they?
I've had a different experience in my career. It's usually the ginger guy you try and make him cry. So it doesn't matter the size of the instructor that's doing the demonstration, I would get called up. I remember being made to do a backflip once by a certain instructor who basically stood me up and then punched me full whack in the chest. And I did some sort of, Sean will tell you better because he was laughing in the corner.
That was one of the best days of my life after my child getting born.
when your mates think you being assaulted and launched across the room is one of the top 5 days of their life, including you missed out the marriage as well, big man. So if Ashley listens to this, you're dead.
No, it's definitely in the top 5. Oh, awesome.
So, I remember we did a set. You and I kind of trained once where there was a certain taekwondo dude that joined us that day, and you completely dismantled my theories in power generation. I was with another group at the time, and I was like, we do this, we do that, and you were like, why not just do this? And I went, dunk, and I went, yeah, he's right.
That was a fun day. But it was, I see videos of him, you're showing that punching technique, and I always kind of think, but hitting hard, talking about self-defense and the martial arts and stuff like that, there's no great secret about it. If anyone comes and asks me, you want to learn self-defense, the first thing I say, the best thing you can do is learn how to hit bloody hard, and that's the start, dead easy. And you can start training that. How to hit hard, well, it's not rocket science, it's just physics. You just need momentum. Well, F equals MA, mass and acceleration. And we're going to create force. And, the mass side, although it's not the same as weight, we can talk about weight. So if you can move your weight really, really quickly and accelerate really, really fast and then hit something that's stationary, then you're going to create force. And why twist round or pull back, and then you just need to go forward with weight. And I tell you, there's a couple of people. Peter Considine is a fantastic power hitter. Steve Lowe, another one. He's taken it to another level in shock generation and stuff like that. And the techniques are just really simple, and they just work from right in front of you. There's no massive build-up. There's no need to do anything strange or different. And it's just natural. Eddie Quinn from I can't remember the approach. He ties in his power generation with it's as easy as throwing a ball. And it's the same principle of getting the body moving and putting the hinge on the outside and having all your body weight going one way rather than half and half, stuff like that. It's just physics. Yeah. We do a lot of hitting in our club. We're a small group, and one of the first things we get people coming from other clubs to train with us, and one of the first things we do is we just break down just the basic Yakuzuki, the punch, and we get that power generation and that heavy hand feeling and that hit worked on first of all, and then we start working on everything else and how we can generate from different ranges, stances, all the rest of it before we start playing with the good stuff.
Nice. I've just got a wee question for you, Sensei. You kind of touched that you were earlier on in your career, you've done a little bit of sport karate. Recently, we've had kind of instructors on talking about their kind of competition career. Do you think if you were to continue karate, do you think they should do some sort of competition to touch into that, just to experience that? Do you think that's relevant for someone's karate career?
As in my students, you mean, or just anyone in
general? General karate. I know we all competed, and I would still wish to compete after COVID and competing, but just for the general karate.
I think it depends what you want out of it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's. I understand. I think where you come from, like it's a fantastic way of putting yourself on the line and feeling that adrenaline dump, and doing it. But I don't think that's the only way you can get that. I think down to the instructor. Our club, we don't do competitions, so I have to get my students to experience that feeling in other ways from competition. And we do periodically, every 3 to 6 months, we do adrenaline nights. So we call them adrenaline nights. And it's all about creating that adrenaline dump, understanding where it comes from and how to deal with it, so you get used to it. And I remember teaching a seminar on this at St Andrews University a few years. I've done it a few years up there, and we take in all the concepts of what actually happens in the body when you get an adrenaline dump. The semantic responses, the sympathetic nervous system, semantic and cognitive responses to adrenaline, what it does to you, and how you overcome that, and how you train that. And I've got a whole series of drills that allow you to induce in your students in a safe environment, but to still give them that feeling of that fight, flight, or freeze scenario. Which is exactly what you get when you step up to that line in competition, whether it's Kata or whether it's facing another opponent. But bringing that into the club. I also encourage my students to train at other clubs as well. We've got a few other guys go to jiu-jitsu and go to judo as well locally, because the judo fits well with the type of close range stuff we do. And also on seminars and things. So I think, I would definitely encourage anyone, if they want to do competition, to go ahead and do it. I'm not the right club for it. But if they want to do that, definitely. If they're not doing that, then there definitely should be another way of taking them out of their comfort zone and inducing that adrenaline, and looking at how you can build that confidence and give them a structure to work on. Definitely.
No, that's perfect. I was kind of just curious to see how, because there's plenty of clubs out there. We know plenty of clubs that don't compete also, and I was just also curious to kind of see, kind of how you done it. And you explained it exactly. That's interesting. That's good. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think I suppose there's lots of clubs that maybe don't go and don't compete. They don't go and train elsewhere. They have a set syllabus and they stick to it, and they just allow the grades to go up and stuff, and there's no real kind of testing of character, of performance, of skill set or whatever. So and I would ask the question, how do you know where you sit? How do you know where you stand? We've all heard the stories of black belts that have, somebody said boo to them in the street and they've froze, and things like that, which is but then each their own. It depends what you want out of it, and what the goal is.
Of course. No, thank you.
I told you I could talk. Can I go?
We like it.
Going.
Oh, I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
It's 5 o'clock already. On Friday.
It's honestly really interesting, so don't worry about that. It beats us listening to Liam for this length of time anyway. Usually,
that's true. Ends better than that.
Why?
Sorry, mate.
Sorry, man.
We love you.
We got a strange way of showing it. That's all I'm saying.
Awesome.
Children in martial arts. Now, with the way you teach it, I mean, you can approach it. Yeah, exactly. So, how does that children in martial arts? What's your opinion? Look at he's reeling back. All right, boys, brace ourselves. What's your opinion on children training in martial arts?
Oh, I love them, but I couldn't eat a full one. I didn't say that out loud, did I?
All right.
No, right. So we did have, or we have got a children's class. We start them at 8, and we teach them fundamentals and the basic structure. So they have stances, balance, coordination, fitness. We do throws with them. We do groundwork with them, and grappling, and close range stuff. And we tee them up to move into the adults class at 14. So they've only got 5 to 6 years in a junior class, then they move into the adults class. So I've never had any junior black belts because of the type of stuff we do. And when they move into adults class, they still keep doing what we call the junior syllabus, but they start working with the adults and things. At the moment, what we've done, or over the last 3 years, we've stopped taking junior students with a view to, because we've got so many now that, we've got a core ones that have moved up the grade a wee bit. And what we found is when we started bringing more juniors in behind them, then the class got watered down quite a wee bit with the type of stuff we do, because as we build it up over the course of 4 to 5 years, they're now breaking down katas and bunkai and throws, and there's more for them to learn, and there's more for them to study in the different sections of karate and ranges of karate, if that makes sense. We have anyone that want to do a competition, then we're quite open and up front with that. In fact, we've sent a few to you guys and to other clubs and stuff. So there's other clubs that are better at that than us, and that's usually a big driver for junior students. But we were quite strict on the fact that we're going to tee them up to come into the adults class to learn the old Okinawan system, as opposed to the sports side. So I have got a small class for juniors. We've stopped taking any with a view to, I don't know, we'll play it by ear if we bring any back, or whether we'll move them into the adults class and start going on from there. That's the honest answer with it.
James, earlier you said that you use the bow in your teaching. Do you do any with any other weapons, or do you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know you look on YouTube, someone will have a knife and then they'll flick it off them and then break their wrist and stab them in the eye or something. But do you do all that?
No, the traditional kind of kobudo, the Okinawan weapon system. So we bow. We've got I think 3 or 4 bow katas that we practice. Tonfa, nunchuck, sai, and kama are the kind of main ones. Although we're predominantly focusing on bow at the moment, just because that's where the level the group's at. Knife defence is not something that I have in the syllabus or teach the syllabus. It's there's nothing. I can't stand watching a knife defence, and this is what you do when somebody does that. It doesn't work that way. I've been attacked with knives twice out in the street, and first time I can't remember anything about it. Absolutely nothing about it. I just remember smashing into this guy and go down and me running. I don't know what state he was in afterwards. No idea. I don't know. It wasn't a concern at the time. It was just to get away from there. The second time, posturing, de-escalation got me out of it. There was 3 of them, one with a knife and me and another guy, and we talked our way out of that. If somebody wants to stab you with a knife, generally they'll not show you. They'll do it from behind. It'll be very quick. You don't have an option to do this, that, and the next thing. This is where the adrenal dump comes in as well. You'll absolutely crap yourself if somebody throws a blade in front of you, kind of thing. And it's just not something that I feel you should teach as a here's how you do this, or you grab the knife this way, you do this, that, and the next thing. So the key with things like that, we do knife drills. And we do them with either like a mitt or a plastic bottle or bit of chalk or different things, and we run through different scenarios. And this is generally as part of the adrenaline days that we do, the adrenaline classes, and it's in a structured way. And we analyse what's happened, and then we look at better ways we can do it. And a lot of the time, it's mindset is a big part of it. And if I was to ask you a question, what controls the whole body?
Was that a question for us?
Yes, hi. What
your brain? Your brain?
Your brain, absolutely. Yeah, your brain up here. So,
really showing.
or in the big toe, wherever it is.
I'm not sure we can mention that on here.
All right.
So childish.
But if you can knock that out, then you can knock out the threat. It's not that easy.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh,
he's gone.
Oh,
we
had him now that we took him out there.
I'm all right.
So yeah, we look at the mindset, we look at drills, we look at ways that we can make it better. But there's no set defence for thorn knife attacks, as far as I'm concerned.
Earlier, because like I said, I haven't met you before, and it's the first time I have met you. I looked on YouTube and watched a video, and you talked about like the nasty karate. Then you sort of grabbed this guy and twisted him around. But before you did that, you spat in his face. So I mean, tell us a little bit about like the nasty part.
Yeah, well, the thing about karate or original Okinawan karate, it was a civilian self-defense system. It works close range, long range, whatever, with weapons or whatnot. A lot of what isn't passed down in the teachings is the dirty side of it, the bad language, the whole pre-fight or the monkey dance. Motobu Sensei Chokimotobu. It was once there's a great saying, deception is one of karate's, or Kempo he called it, best defenses or best kept secrets. So the sucker punch, the preemptive strike, as we call it nowadays, when you get to a point where you feel that there's absolutely no way you can prevent this from getting into a fight, hitting first, hitting hard and getting out of there is a much better self-defense strategy than blocking 3 times and saying, right, I've warned you once, I've warned you twice, I've warned you 3 times. Again, the spit in the face, the flicking the balls, then the smash. 2 great distractions. That doesn't matter what you do, you're going to blink if someone comes towards your eyes. You get hit in the balls.
Just look at Liam's face when you said that. He was like,
in a flashback there.
Oh, sorry. Have I tickled a nerve there?
No.
But again, there's that level of does your life depend on it? What do I need to do? How many is there of them? Do I need to take this guy's eye out to stop him coming at me? Do we need to go over the score? Do we need to start breaking limbs? Do we need to, all these things are factors that were in the original form of self-defense before it started becoming more mainstream and things. So we teach a lot of these concepts and stuff. We don't always go around spitting in people's faces in the class, but we can emulate.
Just reminded me.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. Only if you ask nicely.
Some folk are into that.
There's an organisation that is, but moving on, there's where was I? Sean brought up a wee thing there. We used to train with a guy, and actually, what you've said there makes me wonder if he was right. Can you remember the story about the chaps?
Yes. So, you can see it.
I wasn't there. You were there. I didn't actually hear it.
Yeah. So one of the gentlemen that we trained with, and the instructor couldn't make it to the class, so he asked this gentleman to cover the class for him. And we were just doing general basics, and then we'd done some sparring, and then at the end they wanted to do some he called it realistic karate, I think. So we're like, okay, this is the first time he's ever taught a class as well, so we didn't know what was going to happen. But he was talking about the time when he was in the chip shop, and he's in a thin corridor, and this gentleman came at him, and he had his packet of chips with salt and vinegar, and he said, I just threw it in the guy's face, and then I hit him, and then I ran. And now I think it makes sense, but before, what are you talking about? But now you said that, now he sounds pretty smart. So
well, I think it's down to the threat level and stuff like that. If you've been in a position where you think you've got, this isn't going to end well for me, or you've got a young kid showing stuff. If is it a daughter or a son?
I've got 2 daughters now, so I would leave them both.
2 daughters. I've got daughters with you, and you're in the chip shop. And you get cordoned in the corner, and there's a group of guys that were drunk, and it kicked off. You do anything you could to get out of there, and that will give you that edge. It will give you that distraction to tee up a shot to then clear away to get out. These are things that aren't taught in classes now. Generally, for the general, I was going to say the 95 type people who want to come along and do a martial art and go up through a grading system and stuff. But these are some of the realities of fights as they happen in the street. That's something.
sorry, pardon me, it's a caveat I find myself giving when I'm teaching a class, the Showdown class, is that you're not going to tee up the way you do doing your basics. You know, and I find that, especially when you're talking to adults, people talk to you about from a self-defense perspective, not learning a syllabus, and it's taking the abstract and making it real, and engineering it in such a way that a teaching likes a proportional response, as you discussed there. Like, I can't imagine Mark giving up his chippy, to be honest. No, I can't imagine.
I've seen the kebab. That I wouldn't give that up either. You know,
the kebab on.
I would just throw one of my children and then keep the chips and run.
It's all about priorities, isn't it? And mindset. You have a kid. That'll teach them.
Yes, exactly.
That's too cool, mate. I'd rather spit them. I could do that to them. So,
okay, no.
No,
you go.
No, it's just really interesting to kind of, as you say, the kind of the different aspects of karate, because it is, I think, obviously it can be quite clinical the way it's taught now, and it's kind of one size fits all. But there is so many different paths of it. I mean, I've very kindly come and taught my bunch of misfits, because I wanted you in to kind of, because I wanted to be able to understand that the kind of differences between the training and the application, and I do believe there are links even from our side.
They absolutely 100% are. The training and the syllabuses and the structure and everything came from the application. You know, it's just how it's more a uniform way of teaching it now. But right from the very outset, every move you've done or you do just now has a lethal application or multiples. That last class we did for you, I think it went, we were headbutting, gouging eyes, taking downs. Yeah, well, they did it brilliantly. Came natural, because the techniques we were doing are just standard karate techniques, just done with a different emphasis and a different mindset. It was all the exact same, and every single person did it brilliantly. I was really impressed. It's a very fine line, and it's about switching on and changing that application for the required need at that time.
I think there's maybe a different depth to training at different ages. So I think there's, when you're a child, when I was, it didn't want to be teaching that kind of application. You know, maybe karate is more about self-confidence and base technique and de-escalation techniques, etc. And as I think you get to a certain stage, and obviously you go through a competition side maybe in your time, and then you want something deeper, something more, something that can kind of go further. And I think what you're kind of discussing kind of ticks that box, and that's why I love chatting to you, because it kind of brings that other side, and also brings it almost full circle to what it was already. So yeah, it's always interesting to hear you chat. Sometimes watching you, because there's a wee glint in your eye I've noticed when you start doing an application, man. The wee monster comes out.
I love it. You're absolutely. I mean, children, we don't teach eye gouging or any kind of strangulations or chokes or anything like that, or small digit manipulation and things to kids. That's just a no. It's gross motor skills and structure stance, controlling distance, and power generation. And the kids love to spar, and they love to be able to throw somebody on the mats as well and roll about the ground and stuff, and understand that side of it. They all in when they come further up and they start looking. And the katas have got a structure for us. They take likes of the Heian katas, for example. They're my favourite katas, not the Heians, the Pinan versions of them. Are my favourite. Sorry, the Pinans are.
I know.
Although you've got them around the wrong way, the first two, but there's a natural progression.
I don't know any of them. It's fine.
No, there's a natural progression up through them that works well with the depth of training and stuff. So, for example, Pinan Showdown or your Heian Nidan is all about clearing the guard and hitting the head, the off switch, or the neck and stuff, or moving the body from a different angle so you can get to the head or the neck. and clearing the limbs out the road. Heian Showdown, which is our Piran Dan, as in the second one, is then dealing with what if the arm's on the road or they've grabbed hold of me. Well, I need to get the arm off or get limb destruction to be able to hit the head. What happens if they've grappled me and I can't do anything? I can't get the limbs off. Well, Piran Sandan or Heian Sandan is where we start throwing and we get takedowns on the ground. Yondan is the kind of the masterclass where we start working ground and the various vital points, striking and things. So the opening move and Yondan, we're going for specific areas as opposed to just the neck. And we start breaking that down. Godan's the what ifs and the what else's. So you're like, what happens when I'm caught in this position? How do I get out of it? And how do we work from here to move on to the next? So there's a progression all the way through the Pinans, because it comes from the old Chanan Kata, which was all one to start with, but Itosu broke it down. And then Shotokan switched the first two around. So, and when we start with these, with the learning things, we get into the depth of them and stuff. It's part of what the program is and how we work the syllabus to it. So it can work in conjunction with competition as well, or if that's the flavour. It's just we tend to don't have as many katas as other clubs, but we go a wee bit deeper. And when we've learned Shodan, we go into Nidan and we start understanding like the limb control and stuff part of it and the locks and the destructions. We take that back to Shodan, the lessons we learned in Nidan, and we explore Shodan. Then we go into Sandan, then we take that back to Nidan and to Showdown, and we learn the lessons that Sandan told us, and we work this all the way up till we get to Naihanchi, and then on to Basai and the Kishanku and Sienshin, and then we move from there once we've understood how the human body works, and all the different ranges from verbal kicking, striking, close range striking, elbow, headbutt, knees, grappling, throws, niwaza, groundwork and stuff. Then we move into the weapon side of things. We put a weapon in the hand and we run through the same process and then bring it back to the other katas and stuff. And it's an incredibly interesting art when you start doing that and you understand a lot more and you look at different martial arts and you think it's just all the same. We're humans, we've got a head, a body, 2 arms, 2 legs if we're lucky. There's only so many ways it can move.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love the choice of words that you use. The word destruction. It's just like
limb destruction. In the self-defense side of things, you don't want to put somebody in a hold unless you're escorting somebody out the door. Security work some. You want to break their arm so they can't use it. You want to destruct it, pull it out of its socket, smash their fingers, and so they can't use that as a weapon anymore. Get it out of the road, then hit the head to knock them down and get away. If your life is in danger in the right context.
Do you do like pressure point stuff as well? Like
Kyosho-waza and Shimi-waza and 280 and 280 and of course it's all part of it and it's all in there. Yeah.
So you're taking a lot of time to learn this and develop this. There's a lot of people out there that say that teach something similar, and obviously I've trained with you and I've listened to you and listened to your. There's a lot of charlatans out there talking a lot of nonsense, and I include the 3 of us, by the way, but.
Hey, my no touch karate is good, right?
Don't point that finger at me.
Yeah, right.
There's jokes in my head that promise we wouldn't say this time. Right, so what drives you crazy most? Okay, so you've also spent a lot of time learning, studying. I mean, we get it in our style as well. And our type of things, you look at some people and you go, "Oh my God, what are they doing?" So, what are the kind of key things to watch out for if you want to find somebody who teaches what you teach? What should
that's a good question. I don't actually know. I don't. Do you know? I've you've known me for a good few years. I don't want students. I'm not looking for any new students or anything like that, But I've got a wee group. It's more a study group.
People want to join. If you get space,
no,
I know. Like a karate instructor in my life. What's wrong with them?
I don't care what anyone else does. Honestly, you're never going to stop. If something upsets you in the martial arts, saying to somebody or moaning about it's not going to change anything, generally. If you're part of an association, you talk. If you head up an association and you've got a standard all the way down through that you want people to follow and you need to police that, and because that's what the association is is all about and their way of doing things, then yes, you need to do that, and you need to get upset if somebody's not doing something the way that it's supposed to be done or whatever. I'm independent. I don't care what anyone else does, or I think there's room for everybody, and it depends what you want out of it. The only bugbear I have, and again, it doesn't bother me. I'm too long in the tooth to get worried about other people, but or what they're doing is when somebody says they're doing something and it's clearly not. For example, I suppose in the reality-based world or a martial arts world, the big hook is learn self-defense here. And well, are they teaching self-defense? Are they teaching awareness training? Are they teaching the nasty side of things, the stuff that will actually work? Are they being proportionate for juniors up to adults, the environment that they're in, training to teach them the right skill sets for what they're doing, or are they just using that on a flyer to get people to come through the door? And that could be the same for learn competition karate here, when clearly they're not winning any competitions or whatever, so it's just be I suppose be honest about what you're doing. And
I get a lot of stuff. I don't know if you guys do. People want to learn MMA stuff, or they want to learn that, and I'm like, and I'll say to them, listen, that's not what I do, mate. That's not. You'll learn striking, etc. But in the context of karate, that's not my wheelhouse. And I think if you get them in, somebody like that in, they'll figure out you're full of nonsense in a matter of weeks anyway. You just make yourself look like an idiot. So yeah, I know where you're coming from on that. So self-defense in real-world situations, we were kind of talking about this the other day. How do we actually using self-defense to protect yourself in a legal framework? What would be your advice as an instructor?
Don't be there.
Stay indoors.
95% of self-protection is awareness and avoidance. Understanding what the cues are, and avoiding it, being aware of surroundings. Simple things about your daily life as you go, especially women nowadays and things like that, walking alone or jogging alone with the earphones in and not paying attention to their surroundings, doing the same route every single day that's in a quiet, secluded area. They'll make themselves a target. Make yourself a hard target. Don't get to that point. The fighting side of things is the 5% or the 3% at the end when it all goes wrong, when your awareness and avoidance hasn't worked. I used to teach self-defense classes for our juniors, and we would structure it down and we'd do a street safe course and stuff, and it would all be about awareness and avoidance, majority of it. Give them tasks like when you're away home from school, tell me how many yellow vans you see, tell me how many blue cars you see. You're just starting to get them to think when they're walking. And go and tell your mum and dad, there was a white van parked just outside the such, and I saw 3 yellow cars and stuff. It just gets them used to looking around, watching what they're doing. We use the Cooper colour codes for our threat awareness and stuff. It's part of our syllabus for our juniors and for our seniors, understanding the threat awareness, the avoidance and the reaction and when you have to act and stuff, to give yourself, to take that thought away from it and put it into our training and controlling and de-escalation stuff. So and that all it is all the soft skills on the run up to before we hit anything. The next piece of advice would be just learn how to hit really hard, from nowhere. Set up a vocal cue, for example, to engage their brain, then smash them, spit in their face, smash them, whatever it is, for that. If it gets to that point where you can't de-escalate, you can't run away, it's all going to kick off, and I need to do something to get away. For juniors, we would say like a hard shove or something, a push or whatever. And it's all got to be, what we can't do is dictate a thing for a situation, because we don't know what that is, and we can't teach that. So we can only teach a principle and a mindset and a coordination and a way of taking a lot of the thought process out of it. If something doesn't feel right, invariably it's not right. Listen to your gut. Don't be there. Move. Things like that. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
No, that's. I have a non-karate class that I teach in the club as well, twice a week. And what you said there really was exactly what I could have said yesterday, because you get asked all the time, what if they do this?
What if they do this?
And it's like, it doesn't work like that. Because it's not about getting a prescribed response, it's about learning to flow. You need to be able to flow and be able to have kind of different weapons in your repertoire if it does engage at close range. So
you'll never remember all these things anyway when adrenaline kicks in. So I did doors for years and stuff. And what you can do is you can predict what's going to happen based on certain factors. So if you're trying to get somebody, or someone's going to kick off, or somebody's been leery with you, or whatever, and your things, then you can position yourself into a position where you can block down one side of their body. So the only option they have is swinging with that free side. So you can set up your counters before they've even happened, and you can set up your control, your de-escalation, your space management, and decide whether it's going to kick off or it's not going to kick off. If it is, am I giving myself my best position to take away from their strong arm, to smash them, to get them out? Or if they do, the only thing they can hit me with is this. So now I can start prescribing what I'm going to do to block it, if that makes sense. So you can control distance, you can control the structure and the dialogue and everything else. But you've got to train it, you've got to practice it, and you've got to understand how the body works.
Yeah.
Do you can't, if you're at a distance, and what happens if somebody does this? Well, all your 95% of self-protection's out the window. You're in a fight now, mate. I hope you can hit hard.
You're scrapping now, yeah. I'm sure that's a question Bob been asked, but what if you do this and what if they do that? And I'm like, it's just you've got to run drills and build up the flow and work, as you say, work under pressure, and it's a whole skill set on its own. And I think I get a bit irritated when you see people say there's certain like wrist grabs and wrist locks and that kind of thing, and you're like, you don't have time for that kind of fine motor movement. And
don't get me wrong, I think understanding how joint manipulation works is really important for just understanding how the human body works and how it works in a chain link. So like, for example, a small finger manipulation will pull my finger a certain way, not this way, but this way. We'll bend the wrist, we'll bend the elbow, bend the shoulder, bend the hip, and put you in a better position to smash them, kind of thing. And understand, we've got a couple of wee flows that we do. We kept it quite short, but just working from the wrist to the elbow to the shoulder, down, and the escapes for them, so you can understand how joints work and what way to manipulate them, and they replicate anywhere in the body, and just understand that. And that's more a learning thing. And it doesn't matter whether you manipulate them, you break them, you destruct them, you impact them, or you apply pressure in a certain way to them to get the desired outcome. I
really enjoy the vocabulary of this.
I know.
Smash, destruction. Yeah.
Mark, at the end of the day, it's a combat art, and what's the first principle of Kata is, hit hard. From a self-defense point of view.
I love it. Honestly, I love it. Like, it's really, really interesting. I can't wait to when we can get out of all this mess, and I definitely want to do one of your courses. Definitely, as long as Sean's there, he's the one getting smashed and struck.
Well, the thing with this as well. I generally don't. I only do a course somebody asks me. I'm happy to do courses anytime. But when we train, and you're training in this kind of environment, our club's not filled with idiots that's just smashing each other about. You've got to learn in a constructive and a productive manner, and you've got to understand how the body works and how little. It doesn't take a lot of force to actually knock somebody out. It's really easy. It doesn't take a lot of force to break an arm or to break a finger or a leg or whatever. It's just understanding how to do it and building that up. And it's usually a chain of events that will get you to a position where you can knock somebody out really quickly and easily, and it's a slow progression and a safe progression. A lot of the courses and the people I train with, they're not violent clubs,
no,
but it's when you turn the mindset on and you have to react, and it's already drilled, it's already there, and you just automatically go into that predator mode as opposed to.
Well, that's something I've seen, like training in Japan. When you're training with Japanese instructors, you're training in Japanese kind of athletes, whatever, they're lovely, beautiful people, so polite, so kind, and then they go on the floor and it's like they turn their personality off, and it's just sharp guys, and you're like,
stand to kill.
It's like, hello. You just take that. Well, that's us at the hour mark, guys. I could have talked.
I could actually know.
That was brilliant, James Sensei. Really, really, really enjoyed that. Mark looked really excited. He was getting quite
I love all that stuff. I love bunkai. I love getting the mats out, throwing people on the floor, twisting their wrists up. That's just me. Yeah, I just love it. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
it's been great fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Talking about myself for an hour.
No, we've enjoyed listening to it. I said this could go on for like another 2.5 hours, but but listen, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure having a chat with you, and
thank you very much.
We hope you'll come on again sometime.
Oh, of course, I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely.
He's the only karate instructor I've ever met who doesn't want students.
I've got a wee group. Quite happy. With a study group. Yeah,
unbelievable. Well, thank you very much. We'll call it an end there. Thank you very much for joining us today, folks. We hope you all enjoyed listening to Jamie Sensei. It's always a pleasure to chat with. Big thank you to Mark. Big thank you to Sean. I think it's lagged too much this week. I was just quite civil this week. Apart from the conversation about violence. But thank you very much, everyone. As always, like, subscribe, share, do all the stuff on YouTube and all the other stuff. And tune in again for next week's one. Okay. We'll call it there, guys. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Keep training. Us.